Hi friends, it's Terry Gaines. In this video, I'm going to share my World Card Making Day Fun Fold cards. I have 3 simple fun fold cards that I'm going to share with you. And the 3 cards are created from what I'm calling my World Card Making Day card kit. In the card kit, there is 4 pieces of 8.5 by 5.5 basic black cardstock, 2 8.5 by 5.5 of basic white, and 6 pieces of designer series paper that is cut 2 inches by 4. For the 3 cards, you are going to need all 4 pieces of the cardstock and 4 of these designer series paper. So I'm going to pick these 4 to be used for my cards. And in this video, I'm going to do all the cutting, all the preparation for the embellishments, and then I will assemble the 3 cards after I get everything prepped. If you found me via YouTube, there is a direct link to my blog post in the comment section of the video where you can download a cutting guide, a PDF for the cutting guide, and all the details about these cards so you can recreate them. You can use any of your favorite designer series paper prints and the coordinating colors. The reason I chose the perfectly penciled designer series paper is because it is so versatile. It is black and white. There is a pretty floral print on one side of the paper and a fun background on the other side. It comes 12 by 12. You get 2 sheets each. So I have cut these down so you can make a lot of cards out of one packet. And as I mentioned, you can do so much with this. I am going to show 3 different ways of using that designer series paper and 3 different embellishments. For the first card, I'm not going to color the designer series paper. I'm going to have the color pop out on the embellishment part of the card. So a few things that you need. You need a cutter. You want to grab your cutter. You are going to need whatever stamp set or embellishments you're going to want to decorate the card with. I'm going to be using Cottage Rose and its coordinating dies. I'm going to be coloring in those images with Stampin' Blends. I have picked Flirty Flamingo, So Saffron, and Mint Macaron, and my ink is going to be the Memento. For tools, you want for adhesive, you want your favorite adhesive, some dimensionals. You want to bring in a bone folder and a take your pick tool. And I think that's all the things that you are going to need. So what I'm going to do is prepare the card bases and the cardstock first. So if your paper trimmer has a scoring blade on, that's perfect. If it does not, you're going to need a simply scoring tool. So I'm going to use this cutting guide as my guide for when I look at the card or when I cut the cardstock. So what I want to do is take one of these and cut it at, I'm going to take cardstock number 1 and cut it at 4 1/4 to create 2 4 1/4 by 5.5 pieces of cardstock. So I'm going to use my cutter and put this at 4 1/4 and cut. So now I have 2. One is for card A and one is for card B. Then cardstock number 2, I'm going to score at 4 1/4, then cut at 2 1/4. If I score at 4 1/4 first, I'm going to score both of those pieces. And then when I cut it at 2 1/4, I'm going to have the 3 1/4 remaining. So I'll have for card A and card B. So this paper trimmer has a scoring blade. So I'm going to put that at 4 1/4. And I'm going to score the cardstock first. Then I'm going to rotate it and cut it at 2 1/4. And as I mentioned, that will give me my score on both of those pieces. And then it's cut both the sides. So that's for card A and card B. Then we have our third piece of cardstock that we are going to cut at 4 1/4 in this direction and then score at 3. So now I'm going to take the third one, cut it at 4 1/4, and then this is extra piece, and then score it at 3. And we'll put this at 3 and score here. And then per the instructions, it does tell us that this fold is going to be on the left side. So that's what I'm going to cut for those pieces. This extra piece here, this fourth one, is for your embellishments. Now these fun fold cards are going to have images that hang over the side. So what I did for my project was I used this and I cut out 2 of these images that are going to match the flower that I color in. And I'm getting ahead of myself, but what I did was I colored these in with blends, and then it bleeds through, which is what it's supposed to do. But because that's visible, I cut 2 of these out of this extra piece for embellishments so I could hide that back part of that flower. I have 2 additional projects I'm going to share where I use this extra piece of cardstock in a different fashion. So let's get back to our cutting. So that's the colored cardstock. And then we have our cutting guide for the white cardstock. The first sheet, what we want to do is we want to make a 4-inch cut across here and go down 4 inches. So we're going to make that cut, and maybe I can keep that in the video and move this over. So this first one I'm going to take and cut at 4 inches. And so I've got that cut at 4 inches. Then I'm going to cut it at 2 inches. And that's going to be for card A. So I've been putting card A pieces up in the first card here. And then I'm going to cut it at 3 inches to be for card B. Oops. So now we have card B, this piece. And then I'm going to take what's left here and cut it at 4. So we'll cut this at 4. I got a little extra piece there. Rotate it and cut it at 5 1/4. And there we have that is for card C. So we have that piece cut. Now this extra one is for embellishing. So what I did for this one, for my first card I'm going to share with you, I stamped the images that I'm going to have for embellishing on that. And then what I did was I colored those in, or I cut them out. I cut them out and then I colored them in. Now I shared with you that I used the blends already, and I shared my color choice. What I love about this perfectly pen paper being the black and white colors here and popping out, you can color in your images and pop out whatever colors you want for your card images. I chose these 3 colors because they're part of the color combination that Stampin' Up! Has picked for their World Card Making Day cards, so I wanted you to use the same colors. And there's so many ways to color these in. I love using the blends, and when I use the blends, I just go real softly with this tip. You don't want to go hard because you're going to kind of fray the edge of that tip, and the ink flows out really well when you just go real lightly. I find if I hear a lot of scratching when I'm coloring this in, then I know that it might be starting to run, the ink is running out, that I might want to look at replacing it. I'm not going to color a lot of this in, but I'm just going to show you how I color in. And there's no wrong way to do this, and there's many ways to do this. So I put the whole floral image, I'll color in with the light color, whatever color I choose. Then I go on the bottom portion with the darker color and color that up, again, real softly with the tip of the blend. And then I bring in the light color, and then I pull that dark color up all the way and cover the whole image section with the light color again. That kind of gives me a blended tone there. And I'll bring this up closer. Let me grab one that maybe I did a little bit better job coloring in. So you can see that I got the dark, and then I just color that in. I use the dark So Saffron for the center of the flower, and the light for those images, and then the 2 light and dark for the leaves. But pick whatever colors you want, because you're not going to go wrong. It's going to be beautiful. So you want to create your 3 embellishments. So I have those 3 done already. And as I mentioned, it bleeds in the back. So 2 of them I'm going to cover up with this part. So what I want to do is adhere those together. with some adhesive. Now, depending on what your image is that you've added for your card, you may not have to do this, but I'm going to have to do that for 2 of those. So with this video, in any video, what you can do is you can hit the pause if I'm going too fast for keeping up with me. I should have mentioned that at the very beginning, but just hit the pause button and then you can keep up with the assembly process. I failed to talk about the designer series paper. I gave you, if you have my world card making packet, you have 6 designs. You are going to pick a design for card A, B, and C, and then you're going to pick a design that's going to work, complement card B and C paper. So I'm going to use the polka dot one to be my, let me just make sure that that's what I did. Yep, that's what I did. I'm going to take the polka dot one and be this piece right here. And when I mentioned sharing what I already did, you can do it different ways. You don't have to follow the same way each time. But this designer series paper that's going to be both for card B and C needs to be cut at 1 inch by 4 to have 2 of these. So I forgot to do that before I moved the cutter out. So I'm going to place this down and then cut that so I have 2 pieces. Now, if you are starting from scratch and don't have these smaller pieces, you could create a 3 by 4, 2 3 by 4 pieces and use that for your cards. So anyway, these are all extra and we've got our images created. What I'm going to do is start with the assembly of the cards. So once you have your embellishments, your designer series paper cut, why don't we start with card A? So for card A, what we have, these pieces are for our inside sentiment. And what I did was, I wonder if I brought them over here. I pre-stamped those, and I don't have those, but you'd want to stamp your inside sentiment on here. And this is going to be our card base. And what we want to do is, let's see, what we want to do is, apologize, we're going to take whatever designer series paper that you want to start out with, we're going to adhere it to the front of this folded card base with the fold up on the top. So use your favorite adhesive. And oh, it's always hard when you have beautiful paper designs on both sides when you're covering up one of the 2 sides. But we're going to adhere this like so. And then we're going to turn this over, and this is going to be the fold part of our card. And we're going to attach this, the fold up on the top, to this card base. And then this is the inside sentiment, and I always like to stamp my sentiment prior to putting it inside the card. We're going to put that on the inside of the card. And then one of the embellishments that you have the black piece on, or the cardstock on the back, is going to just go on the side like here. It's going to hang over the card. So the best way to do this, because we don't want any exposed adhesive to go on this part, what I do is I take my dimensionals and I will put a dimensional, 2 dimensionals, so I'm going to put a dimensional on the far side of here. We could actually put another one right here. You can actually go 3 on here. So I'm going to put 3 dimensionals there, so that's going to stay on this part. And then what I would do is put 1 dimensional right on this edge right here. So now what that allows me to do, as long as I keep this part of the flower on that folded portion of the card, I can adhere this like so. So what I'm going to, and what that allows me to do is make sure I don't have any blind spot. If I put dimensionals over here, they're really hidden to me, and I don't want them to be over here. I don't want it there. So that is card measurement for A. So as I mentioned, all of these measurements are on that PDF, so you can download that. So I just love how the colors just pop out with that black and white designer series paper. And so that's card A. For card B, we have our four 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 cardstock that we cut. We have our card layer, that's 3 1/4 by 8 1/2, folded at 4 1/4. And then we have our basic white for our inside sentiment. And then this is where we bring in the 2 designer series papers. So you are going to select, take your 1-inch piece and one of the other 2 that you have, or a different one. And what we're going to do is we're going to put those on first. So what you can use is your bone folder to crease those. And as I mentioned, please hit the pause button because I am going to maybe go too fast. I've made these cards before, so I already know how I'm going to be assembling these. So what I'm going to be doing is looking for equal spacing on the top, bottom, and the side to place that one down. Then I'm going to put my adhesive on this one, and now this one is going to go equal spacing top and bottom and right on this side. So that brings those 2 papers together. This is going to go right in the center of that card base. I'm calling this postcard a card base. So this is going to go right in the center. So you have equal spacing on the top and bottom and the equal spacing on the 2 sides. This piece is for the inside sentiment. And this stamp set that I'm using for my embellishment has some really nice sentiments that you can use for your card. And then I want to make sure that I don't take this one. I want to take the one that I don't have the black on the back, and that's going to be placed right over here. And I like using dimensionals for adding these embellishments. So I'm just going to put 3 on. I think that's sufficient for this. Most of the time I put more on, but today I'm just going to put 3 on here. And then I'm going to add this. Now you could add sentiments to your front of your card. I'm just keeping it with the different embellishments. But doesn't that just pop out that designer series paper? Now for card C, we have a card base that is 8 1/2 by 4 1/4. It's scored at 3, and then the fold is on the left. This is going to be our card for our inside sentiment, so you want to make sure you stamp it just on the left side and then adhere it to the card. So we're going to go ahead and do that first. And as I've already mentioned, you could hit the pause button and stamp your inside sentiment. I intended to do that in the video, but I did not bring the blocks over for the sentiment. So now what we want to do is put our designer series paper on here. We have the 2 pieces left that I designated for here. I always start with the 1-inch strip, and I don't know that, well, it would make a difference. If you started with the other one, you'd want to go on this side if you followed the same pattern that I have. So I'm going to look for equal spacing on the top, the bottom, and the left side and place that down. Then I'm going to put my adhesive on this designer series paper and place this down. One reason I like putting this piece down first, that white one, then I can kind of look at that to get my alignment right, so it kind of all lines up straight like that. Now I want this to go over the edge a little bit like the previous card, so I'm going to just put 2 dimensionals instead of 3. I'm just going to put 2 dimensionals right in this area here, and then I'm going to put 2 a little closer to each other. And take your pick tool, helps get these backing pieces off. Now again, if my dimensionals are right here, that means I have some freedom here for placing this as long as my dimensionals don't come over on that side. So that is the 3rd card. So as I mentioned, 3 simple fun fold cards that you can create. I do have that PDF that you can download to recreate these, and I'm going to show you some additional cards that I've created using the same concept. For these cards, what I did was I colored in the designer series paper. So look how this looks when you color in your papers. And then I added color with the Stampin' Blends. I'm going to bring those, or I'm sorry, the blending brushes. So what I did for let me see, get this a little bit cleaner here for you. We're going to put those cards. So for these 3 cards, I used the same concept as coloring, or I was assembling them, but I colored in one of the prints with the blending brush and an ink pad. So I picked Flirty Flamingo, and what you can do is take your ink pad, take your brush, and I usually go in both directions in a circle, and then you just go over your paper as often as you want to get it as dark as you want to, so you can change the color of the designer series paper to whatever color you want. So that I did for that piece before I cut it into the 1x4 strips, and then I colored the designer series paper with the same colors I used for the first images. So for the black cardstock, I punched out the Label Me Lovely punch 3 times here. Then for the extra piece for the basic white, I cut a 1-inch strip, and then I stamped my 3 sentiments. Then I can take that same punch, bring the punch in, line it up to get my spacing. Then I can take this and you can take that, adhere it to the punch, and then you have your embellishments. So there is so much versatility with this designer series paper. Leave it the black and white, color it in, or add some color to it with the blending brushes. I have one more project to share with you, one more set of cards, and for this one I used the Scotty Dog punch, and I want to share how I did my extra pieces here. So these were the embellishments that I used. My extra designer series paper, or colored cardstock, I used the stylish shaped circle dies 3 times, offset them, and then took in the punch and punched the 3 Scotty Dogs. And with the little Scotty Dog, you can have it rotate either direction or look either direction. I did have to add some basic or real red cardstock. This is a 1-inch strip. What I like to do I'm going to give you a tip for cutting out the bow. If you go 1-inch strip and go this way, as you punch that bow, it cuts out that end here, so you can conserve your cardstock if you punch the bow in that direction. And then for the white, I cut 3 of the smaller circles from the stylish shaped dies. And then you can attach these bows with a mini glue dot. And then you'd follow the same concept of with the previous first cards that I shared with you, where you want to make sure you have no adhesive over here. So your dimensionals will be just placed here and put down. So these are the extra samples that I have to share with you. I hope you enjoy creating these 3 simple fun fold cards. It would be fun for you to share your creations using the hashtag that Stampin' Up has shared with us for World Card Making Day. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. Again, in the comment section of the video, there's a direct link to my blog post where you can find the PDF where I will have all the details so you can recreate these projects using your product. Happy World Card Making Day. Take care and happy creating.